Are you ready to learn how we do our quarterly meetings here at 2XU? In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step of what usually happens behind the scenes as I am growing my business. Now, I wanted to do a little bit of this video because in the last couple of videos, I've kind of been capturing things that are happening in the business at the moment of me going to Europe, how I was able to run it basically with my team, kind of being just in charge while I was off in another country, how my assistant basically managed me and making sure that I was on track for the things that we said we were going to do. So I'm going to walk you through how we were able to kind of get back into the groove after I was gone for so long, and as well as how we usually plan for the next quarter. Now, the first thing is we do follow the EOS structure, or the Entrepreneur Operational Systems, from the book Traction, as kind of our structure when we're doing our quarterly meeting. So it's pretty straightforward. There's just a template that we follow basically every single time. We start with the prep part where we're going through what went well in the last quarter for every division that we have, for our client success, for example, for taking care of our assistants, to marketing, sales, finance, and everything else in between. Each person basically in our admin team goes ahead and writes down the things that they've observed and the things that could be done better and the things that were actually done really right in the last quarter. This gives us an opportunity whenever we review it that every single person basically gets recognized for the things that they're doing, as well as they see what other people might be seeing just because they're missing it. Because a lot of times when you are growing a business, when you're trying to figure out how everything else fits, it is really helpful to have other people's perspective on what's going on or what might be missing gaps as well in communication. So this happens a lot where some of our team members aren't aware of the different projects or things that we're doing, not to fault of anyone. It's just that things go smoothly in one way and then people are kind of minding their own flow on the other, that there are some times where we have miscommunication gaps. So it's really helpful to kind of start hashing out of like, hey, is this getting done in this division? Of like, yeah, we've been doing it for a while. This is actually what that looks like, X, Y, and Z. So it gives us a little bit of a good back and forth as we're going through that prep work of, again, going through what went well and what could be done better as we get ready for that meeting. And then once we're actually doing the meeting, it's kind of an easier flow of first is going through personal and business highlights for the last 90 days, which gives us a little bit of an overview of how everyone is actually doing, especially since most of the time we have one big admin meeting every single week where we kind of do go through people's like achievements and wins. But it is, again, helpful to kind of have that refresh of like, oh yeah, that happened this quarter, congrats, or oh yeah, this went really well for you last quarter, congratulations. So we're able to celebrate each other's wins. And then the next part of the process basically is, as we reviewed our personal stuff, we're also then going through the business scorecard of how did we measure up to the scorecard that we set that we would want to hit for this quarter, and do we want to continue basically tracking that. So for example, let's say that we have a revenue goal within 2XU and we kind of almost hit that goal. So okay, do we continue this for the next quarter or do we set a new goal because we're so close to this goal, and how can we match one to the other? So it's a good way for us to kind of just review how well we did in the last quarter, aside from going through our own budgets as well and how we did financially. How does our actual scorecard look on how are we hitting our goals for at least that year? Next is then, of course, we're reviewing the projects that we were able to do and be able to highlight anything that got stuck in the middle, if that was a communication problem or resource problem, so on and so forth. And then we follow the EOS checklist, quarterly checklist that they have basically, where for each part of it, we're basically rating it from 1 to 5 of like, hey, has our vision and mission has been successfully communicated for people? Is it 1 to 5, 5 being the highest? Are people on the right seat, on the right part of the bus? Are we documenting X, Y, and Z? Are we doing all of this? So we basically have this cool just Notion template that we're able to follow through and be able to see how people are scoring the different parts of the company and be able to start capturing issues that we see. So we also have what we call, originally in the book Traction, it's called IDS, which is issue, decide, and basically solve, I think. But for us, we call it the ADD of like, what are the things that came into our attention so we can decide and actually do something about it. So we've kind of morphed it a little bit. So as we're going through each and every part of the checklist, we're already starting to capture any issues or things that came into our attention so that later on we can go back to it. After we go through the checklist, we start creating the projects based off either what we already talked about or what other people have said, hey, I want to do this as a project next quarter. And then we'll start actually going through our ADD. We'll go through what were the common ones from one division. Let's say, again, it could be that one division, hey, I don't think you guys are doing this. Like, no, we're doing this. This is how we're doing it. It might just not be communicated well on the other side. And we're able to have a really good back and forth of, we know what the goals are, we know where we want to go, and then how do we solve these issues now as we're going through it. Because, for example, it could be that in January we set off, hey, let's have this policy when we're doing X, Y, and Z. But now as we're doing the X, Y, and Z process in the business, we're finding out like, hey, it actually doesn't fit, or it doesn't make sense, or like, hey, there's this loophole that we didn't see before. So we go through this really good discussion back and forth as we're setting our projects and going through any issues or things that came up for attention, and being able to have a really good discussion back and forth with everyone else on the team. Like, hey, this should be addressed this quarter, or like, hey, we can still delay this, we can wait for this one a little bit on this part of our growth plan, basically, and then we can probably have the resources to move this forward. So we're having this good back and forth, and I really recommend the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, because it gave us a really good framework of how we should think when we're in that team setting, of how we can basically bring things up without having the other person feel attacked or hurt, and at the same time kind of knowing that we're moving towards the same goal. Because as I've noticed from other people's teams, is that's usually where a little bit of the disconnect comes from, is when people aren't aligned towards the same thing. Now, as we're going through that AD and start setting up our projects, we start setting up who the champions are or who's in charge of certain projects, and they know what their numbers are. They know what it looks like when it's done. So for example, let's say one of the goals that we currently have right now is we're going to supercharge our lead generation with AI. So what that looks like is we have at least 10 people who's booked sales calls with us using our AI system, basically, for lead gen. So we know now this works. So every single person has a number and has a basically a mark that they need to start filling in or start hitting, so they can say that this project is done and wrapped up. Afterwards, we then break down what resources this person might need, who they would need to be on that team to be able to get that project done. We break it down to the tasks that we need to get done, and then we break it down to weekly, what are the things that we want to check. So we're renewing that scorecard of what are things we want to check, so then we know we are still on the right path, we're still headed towards that trajectory. And then usually we wrap up the meeting with going ahead and map out all of the projects and who's in charge. Again, that number that they're in charge of, and putting it into a shared Notion dashboard that everyone can see. So every single week now, so switching from the quarterly meeting to the weekly meeting, every single time that we check that, we know if we are on course or if we are off the course, depending on, again, the numbers, the priority for that project, and again, if they have the resources to be able to move that forward. And that's basically it for how we do our quarterly meetings. And again, weekly, that's basically how we make sure that we're always on track, is we do check on it every single week, so then we know if we are going towards where we want to go. And honestly, if you are right now thinking of like, hey, I want to hire a virtual assistant, and you're thinking yourself, what does that look like for me a year at a time or 2 years at a time? It will be that you'll start breaking down and creating your admin team as well. So for me and my assistant, one of the first things that we hired for was definitely someone to handle the marketing, because that was a growing thing. Then it was someone to start handling and managing a lot of our amazing assistants, because it was taking up a lot of my time. Then it was someone who was managing our clients, then so on and so forth. So as our team grew, it always was keeping in mind that for me and my assistant, Honey, we're always focused on growing to the point where we are both at capacity, and then start hiring for the specialist for that. Because a lot of the time when you're growing a business, you're not sure when to hire for a certain role. Should I hire for this person now? But in reality, when you're growing a team, it kind of will get to the point where like, hey, we're focusing too much on marketing. Let's go ahead and hire a marketing specialist here, because there's probably now full-time work for this. Hey, we've been focusing more on taking care of our clients or taking more of our assistants, and we don't have a lot of time on actually being on the business. We're just now in the business. So for me and my assistant, we kind of have this good tag team of being able to flag, hey, I think we need to hire for this role now. Hey, I think we need to look at getting a specialist for this role. So then as we keep growing, as we have the different structures and plans in place, we're actually going to get them done, rather than it kind of going back to us as a little bit of bottleneck within the business. Because of course, as you grow, as you do a lot of things in your business, you do want to have it run and go on without you. That's kind of the ultimate goal, and not to trap yourself in your own business, so you can work on your business. And if you guys are ready for that next step, go ahead and book a call with us at 2XU. And of course, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there, and comment below what struggles are you going through right now as you're trying to grow your team. I would love to know and maybe create a future video for you on that. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!